That's not the last time. You don't point your finger at me. Who do you think you are? You're a weak lawyer. You're a terrible lawyer.
Gentlemen.
And you're going to get out of our city.
Okay.
It's deeper than the Crime Act to me.
It is.
And I need people to understand this so you know who I am.
Right.
First, when you got young kids in the street with military-style rifles and guns and handguns with switchers on them, for you that don't know what a switcher is, it makes your gun shoot off more bullets than it could within seconds.
It makes it automatic.
An automatic weapon, right?
I'm gonna say it like this, members of Congress have already started paying off people like Mr. White. So I look at life. You will have a rebuttal.
And when I first said Pagoda, and you corrected me,
Is it my turn or is it
You
your
run the
turn?
housing committee.
Is it my turn or your turn?
It's my turn. How about that? It's my turn.
It's
my
not
turn.
though.
It's my turn to take your place at large. It's my turn.
Gentlemen,
Give some
okay,
ideas,
let's.
though.
Yeah, we are giving
Okay.
ideas. We're going to make sure our city is safe again. And
It
you're
is
not going to be
Mr. White's.
Go. Why do you laugh?
I laugh because everybody has their own meaning of what defund the police is, right?
Council and the mayor have been beefing for the last, 2 terms? He doesn't like the mayor. Nobody likes the mayor. We have to come together. It doesn't matter if we like each other or not. So we have to find a place in our city where our council and our mayor and our chair have to get along and put their pettiness aside and stop being little kids. We got kids in the council. Most of them are on their IG every 5 minutes. Go down there and see them. They got their head down doing this.
So
You asked me about this presidential race.
yes.
Okay.
Red, welcome to the Politics Pagoda.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me. Politics Pagoda. And when I first said Pagoda, and you corrected me to Pagoda, and I knew it was a deep story after that. So you started to talk to me about like what is Pagoda, and I wanted everybody who doesn't know what Pagoda is to know what Pagoda is. I don't want to be the only one that learns on the spot.
Pagodas. So they're Asian temples. If you get Chinese takeout, right? Everyone gets Chinese takeout. They're usually on the side of the box.
Oh, so I seen them when I was in Japan. I seen them when I was in Thailand. I seen them a lot of places. Then,
Yep.
Then I do know what Pagoda is.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So my background, I'm half Thai, half white.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
So Thailand was one of my favorite trips I ever took. My wife took me to Thailand, to Phuket, and what's the major city?
Bangkok.
Yes.
And then it's not fuck it, it's Phuket.
I know it's Phuket.
I know.
So I try to tell a young kid not to say that when they're over there.
Exactly.
She was going crazy. But one of my best experiences in my life, I lived in a tree house for 3 days with mosquito nets all around me.
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. I was in Vietnam and Laos and did that.
Yeah, and read one of the best books I could read, and it was at my most peaceful. And I will never forget Thailand. I'm gonna go back many more times. I guess I'm gonna be able to say I know what a pagoda is.
There you go.
Yeah.
When you go back.
He pointed at it. Hey, there's a pagoda.
So we watched the debate
Uh-huh.
so you're running for at-large council member for DC.
Mm-hmm.
We watched the debate. It was good. It was entertaining.
So it's becoming spicy.
It's crunch time now. So we got the election on June 4th.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Really, I say the election is really May 26th. You know, because you have those 7 days really to vote. You know, you take one day off on Memorial Day, but everything else is vote. So early vote. I always tell people go early and go in, punch the button.
starts May 26th.
Yeah. So June 4th is the actual election day. But, you know, we as voters need to really set a tone this election. This is a tone election. This is where you say, well, we're tired. We want accountability. And we have to continue to push our legislators to become more rooted in the community.
I want to touch on that. And at the debate, you said you were a Hall of Famer.
No, I said my wife's a Hall of Famer.
Your wife's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that title. My wife, Noelle, shout out to her, is
retired police officer.
She's a retired police officer. She's a basketball Hall of Fame, a Maryland basketball Hall of Famer. She played at Bowie State University where they won the CIAA, and they put their whole team into the Maryland Hall of Fame. So I'm married to a Hall of Famer. I brag about that.
And you have how many kids?
I have 3 kids, 2 grandkids, and a beautiful dog, Briar. That I didn't even think I even wanted a dog. I was one of those.
What kind of dog?
It's a miniature poodle, and it's like was supposed to be my kid's best friend, but he's ended up being my best friend. She was supposed to be the one walking him,
and now
So now I really have a true best friend, and but I love him to death though.
We have a 75-pound Doberman pinscher.
Oh my gosh, what do you do with that?
Oh, she protects the house.
Oh yeah, okay, I guess she does.
75.
Mine does too. Just barks like crazy. You're not gonna, get anywhere closer to the second step.
So DC crime, right? The debate you're talking about this. I'm gonna play you a clip from the debate. That's what we're gonna do for the first, few moments here. Play you some clips from the debate. Give you a chance to respond, because in my view, the debates are really difficult to sort of expound upon.
Because you only get 1 minute. You get
a minute to talk about DC crime.
Sometimes 30 seconds.
To me, that's not enough time.
No, it's not.
But so let's take a look at this clip, and let's have a listen. And
there's members of Congress have already started paying off people like Mr. White. So I look at life. Don't. You will have a rebuttal. Yeah, they've been paying off.
So explain that. You said he's getting paid by people of Congress.
I mean, you got to understand. We live in a city that is run by the federal government. And whether we look and they know we see, we know that people get funding and kickdowns from the federal government. And it has been said that Robert White is one of those individuals. And I'm going to continue to push that he is one of those individuals because how he's setting up deals. Look at his deals. Go and really research him from the beginning of his career. And see, a lot of people don't think you research, they must don't think we just really have computers in front of us, but we do. And we can chase money too, but the bottom line is no matter if you're getting paid or not, you still got to be a part of this community. Our community is first and foremost. And a lot of people get in these positions and they forget about the community. And I'm going to hold them up to that standard.
So your evidence of him taking money is through the deals that he's made?
Definitely. Housing deals. Specifically, check the housing deals.
Dope.
Yeah. He is the head of housing, the housing committee at the council. Just check the books. He's going to say I've only been there a year and a half, but check the books.
But so let's finish this off.
They've been paying off Mr. White for a long time, so he himself understands what's going on. Just like he acts like he doesn't understand about affordable living, but statehood is really the question here. We're living in a city where we are not a state. So we're vulnerable to the federal government at all times. So they're able to come and talk and whisper in ears and get information that they shouldn't have. We have to have statehood. We have to fight now for statehood. And if we don't have it, we're in trouble because they're going to eventually try to take away home rule. That's what's in effect right now. If you remember 1867, black men got their right to vote. 10 years later, they took away the whole right to vote for everybody in the District of Columbia. It didn't come back for 100 years. And we don't want that same situation to happen again. So we need people in office that understand how to make great relationships with Congress and not just have them whispering in ears.
Okay, so explain.
That's almost like it wasn't me. Like I can look at this and I'm like, dang, these are the things that we really are truly pushing. And, when it comes to statehood, we really have to be careful here because we are under home rule.
So explain this to people that don't really understand this.
Okay.
Because so I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I went to law school here.
That's a great city too, just to let you know.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I went to law school here,
Uh-huh.
and the dean of my law school actually asked me she wanted to hold this symposium.
Mhm.
It was called D.C. Statehood. And I didn't fully understand like what it was about until I worked with her about it. And D.C. is a quasi-federal jurisdiction. When you talk to people,
That's a good word to say, quasi.
It's quasi-federal. This is
Okay,
so I clerked in D.C. Superior Court
right.
as well after law school, and that's where I fully understood quasi-federal. And to explain that to people that aren't from here. So what you're saying is that Congress kind of rules D.C.
Yeah, because
explain why.
Well, I mean, let's look at the situation that just happened yesterday.
Yesterday, the vote, the D.C.
Right.
Crimes Act.
Correct. You know, as much as we thought we were doing something as far as putting a real crime secure act in place, Congress was not happy about how it looked.
So the D.C. Council,
and I knew that was going to happen because when they were, if you go back and look at the council when they were pre-voting on the bill, when the bill was just on the table and everybody was coming down to the council trying to, you know, find out what's going on and which way people were going to go. And I think it was Brooke Pentos. She said, look, we need to go ahead and vote on this, pass this, because, you know, we have higher ups that are watching right now.
and what does she mean by that?
She means that if we don't get that bill passed, they're going to end up dropping the hammer on us harder, because the federal government can drop the hammer on Washington, D.C. at any time because we are not a state.
So the District of Columbia is a district. It's not a state.
It's not a state.
It's a city.
We're being colonized. Let's say that. We were only one of the only colonies that didn't become a state. We still here.
Plus, there's no, you don't get any delegate votes during the presidential election, even though there's like 800,000 citizens that live here, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. 700,000. I don't know.
It's
stats.
800. It's probably more.
So you have 800,000 votes on the sidelines, and so there's that, and then the D.C. Crimes Act. Tell us what happened. What did Congress do?
Well, first of all, you know, you got to understand, it's deeper than the Crime Act to me.
It is.
And I need people to understand this, so you know who I am.
Right.
First, when you got young kids in the street with military-style rifles and guns and handguns with switchers on them, for you that don't know what a switcher is, it makes your gun shoot off more bullets than it could within seconds.
Makes it more automatic.
An automatic weapon, right? And you got 13, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, even if you're up to 28-year-olds, all these is in that young mentality. Why are they doing it, right? Why are they robbing people? Because the equity system in Washington, D.C., it has been taken away from the citizens of Washington, D.C. The wealth gap is 81-1 when it comes to how people make money in the city. And then you don't have any programs for these young people. So now you're dealing with, I got problems at home. I want to go to school to get away from the problem, but I go to school, there's problems there too. They don't even offer me nothing in school. They keep me in school and want me to go to school. So now I'm out in this world. And I'm talking about this from a perspective of Rodney Grant too.
Yeah, you're from DC.
Right. So when I'm on that edge at 14, and I have that ability to either go right or left.
You're talking about when you were a teenager. You're 14 years old and you could choose one path
right
or the other. Do I go down this road?
Right. I got locked up. When I got locked up for the first time, I was at St. Francis, somewhere around Minnesota Avenue, Pennsylvania. I was a young kid. I thought fighting was the thing. I thought I can get my emotions off and all of that. Got arrested, learned a lesson, but didn't. And you know, the police officer told me, he was like, you know, you think you bad? I can whoop your ass with my feet and my hands right now, young man. And I was like, damn, I'm a super athlete. I got everything I need. So what is the difference? You know, the difference is my mom still was there. Most of these kids got their parents and they moms in their lives. Do they listen to them? Do they?
I had that experience. So my parents separated, and I lived with my mom until I was about 10.
Yeah.
And then I got bigger than her, and
Yeah.
then and I was a bad kid. I was a
Yeah,
really bad kid.
yeah.
And then my dad was like, "No, you're coming to live with me." So my brother and I lived with my dad, and I was afraid of my dad.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Now, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because nobody talks about fathers.
Yeah.
Right? The fathers in the community, right? The homes have been displaced. They offering the women and the kids money, but the father can't be involved.
That's a problem.
So where are we at?
Yeah.
Why don't we want the fathers involved?
A lot of the times too, the fathers are serving time, right?
No. Some of them are, but it's a lot of fathers here in the city that want to see their kids too.
And the moms are cutting them out.
It ain't just the moms. It's a system that's cutting them out. The system cuts you out.
What can the DC Council do about that?
I think we can put laws in place that say, you know, that a household can have a father in there and still get funds and still be able to get help. You know, that's a building of families. Why are we not pushing that? So when it comes to crime, it's a turnover. It's a turnover. It's keep happening because we got to fix the system.
There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
It's not just one thing. It's a multi-factor.
But we got to put mentors in the schools. We got to put things in the schools that our youngest can come and be and feel comfortable. Social workers that they really feel comfortable that they can talk to.
I think the mentors idea, I've heard this idea before. I think it's a good idea because, yeah, you know, sometimes there's situations that life happens and the dad's just not in the picture, and that happens. But then if you're growing up, if you have a strong mentor, like I had coaches. I played football.
Me too.
I played baseball. I was a horrible football player, by the way. But you were good, right?
I was good at football.
You went to Savannah State.
I did. I played with Shannon Sharp. We had a great team.
I'm going to ask you about later at the end. I want you to think about a story of Shannon if you have one.
Okay, cool.
But the mentor idea, I think that's great. But can you legislate that?
No, it's not really about the legislation of it. It's so many programs already in DC that can be implemented into that system. So as a council member, you have to make it easier for those things to be implemented.
I get it.
And those individuals. So like, for example, I have Beyond Your Block, me and my wife's nonprofit.
And what's shoot cameras, not guns.
And then we got Don't Shoot Guns, Shoot Cameras.
I'm sorry.
So now both of those are implemented in schools, right? As programs. And when kids come, we run out of space for these programs.
So you've been building these programs, you know. So when you ran for mayor, that sort of you're an executive in the mayor's office. That's the executive of the city. Mm-hmm. So I remember seeing you in an interview saying, "Look, I have executive experience, and this is what I can do." Now it's at the legislative level at the DC Council. So how would you do that analysis?
Well, I always feel like that you have to be able to be a listener first. Right? No matter what type of legislation that you think you're going to put in place, it should not just be your own. It should come from a source within community or within city that helps the constituent, right? I'm a pragmatic Democrat. This is common sense things. You know, when people come in and they think, okay, I got 19 law degrees and I'm going to legislate you to death, but you never go into the community, you really don't know what the people want.
Right.
Your legislation is not effective legislation.
Yeah. So I've heard you say this before too. And you ever hear the phrase, there is and ought to be? There is, which is the practical world, with the world we live in. Right. And ought to be is like, well, the world should be like this. but it's just not.
Yeah, and
And you've lived it in DC.
I've lived it in DC.
So you know the practical problems and the practical applications of what can be solved where.
But my background is different, though. And I tell people all the time, like, my lived experiences, no matter how many degrees you have, it can't touch my lived experience. I've worked for Viacom for 20-something years.
Right.
They give us millions of dollars in budgets so we make sure that we don't mess it up. Because it's not big budgets like we have here. You have to know every little piece of cent where it's going.
You got to trim the fat.
You do.
Yeah.
And that's what they trust me to do on these sets. You know, when I'm with Cat Williams, he trusts me to make sure things is run smooth.
It's private business.
It is.
Yeah.
So, you know, the trust of people I have already. The trust of corporations I've already had. So you can't throw a number where, like, I have never worked with hundreds of millions of dollars in budgets, because Viacom is one of the biggest corporations in the world. And I'm talking about from MTV, I work, BET, Comedy Central, and many more. Wrote for some of the biggest celebrities in the world. So I laugh at people when they say, you know what, well, we got to get in the community and find out what legislation should look like.
I think it makes sense to me that you've lived in the DC community, you grew up in it, and you've come back now. And I think it's true that young people that are typically they're the ones causing the crime, especially the violent crimes, they can look up to somebody like you that's come from the community and be like, I can make it too. Red's made it. I can make it.
I literally took a gun out of a kid's hands.
Right.
Like, come here. Come here. Mother was crying like, Red, can you just come over here?
Whereas I don't think if I did something like that, you think a kid, I'm from Milwaukee, nobody's going to listen to me.
Nobody, well, I mean, they might, but they know I can come in there and talk to them because this is a kid that been in my program.
Right. Let's stay on DC crime. So there's at the debate.
Another topic on crime, Gregory Pemberton, who is the chairman of the DC Police Union, has frequently castigated the DC Council as being soft on crime and anti-police. While crime today is down somewhat from this time of year ago, when it was really off the charts, do you think the council went too far in cutting back on police resources in the wake of the George Floyd murder? Do you think DC needs more officers? I'll start with you this time, I think.
Well, my opponent, you know, he wanted to defund the police, and here we are right now. We're in a situation where we have unsafe streets right now in Washington, D.C. And it's not just east of the river anymore. It's everywhere in the city. And now people are paying attention. So we have to have leaders in office that understand that our city needs to be safe. Every day, our young people are out here committing crimes, and our young people need to have vocational education in their lives. They need to have skill trainings training in their lives. They need people who care about them, Sam, because if we don't have people in office that they care about and that they're relatable to, then we're going to fall short with them. They relate to me. They know Rodney Red Grant in the communities. They know me in these communities. They don't know Robert White in these communities. These young people are... They're in a situation where guns are in their hand. I'm taking the guns out their hand and replacing them with
exactly
cameras.
what you're talking about.
It's time to replace things like that with different things for our young people. Give them opportunities. We love our young people. We got to continue to show them the love that they deserve.
So
I look angry on TV.
you guys were getting into it. It was getting kind of passionate and a little bit heated, but it was great entertainment too.
Thanks.
But I mean, you can speak on crime in this way. So just to give you an anecdote for you, when I clerked in DC Superior Court, I did misdemeanors. So when I was prepping my judges for the calendar that day,
right,
we're talking about like 60 misdemeanors on cases. We did the 5th district. That was where we did 3D and 5D.
Nice.
5D was southeast, so there's a little bit more cases. 3D is in northwest, so 10 cases maybe a day versus 60. And I worked on a case where, so I did misdemeanors, but then we had the felonies, right? The law clerks that worked on felonies. And come April, we were like, hey, let's go grab happy hour. It's 5 o'clock. Let's go. We're off the clock. The law clerks that were doing the felonies, they were like, We're like, well, why? Like, nope. The shootings started happening. The stabbings started happening. We're like, what? For whatever reason, when it turns warm out, that's when it starts up again. And they had a map of DC. DC's a diamond. And they had the red marks that started. And they would just keep putting them. So from April to October, that's when the violent crimes were.
Summertime. Summertime is like the city's hotbed. And we prepare for it. We know. Like, it's not summer yet. It's still a little brisk, little breeze now. But when it gets hot and people start getting frustrated and
but that's a real thing, right?
Oh, it's definitely a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at the crime wave. Look at the numbers in the summertime. That's why we try to give kids something to do. That's why we started summer camps like don't shoot guns, shoot cameras. That's why we gave them opportunities to do something else in the community, because idle time, that stirs up.
So another story for you that maybe you can sort of speak to. I worked on a felony with a judge. It was an appeal, so they opened the case back up. This was when the judge was an associate judge, so I didn't work on the trial with him, but I worked on the appeal. And the facts of the case were this gentleman, he ordered this other guy from a rival housing unit because he had broken up with his girlfriend that night and he was emotional, and he told these two, he wasn't going to do it. This guy was in his 30s. He found, I think it was like a 14-year-old, and it's been a while since the case, and like a 15-year-old.
Gave him $100? What did he give him, 100?
Yeah, gave him some money, told him what to do, and they killed this guy. But they called him uncle. That was like the uncle of their housing unit.
And he could be doing something really positive with his energy. Like, he could be steering those kids into positive directions, So we need to be checking mental health at all times, because why? Over a woman, you're going to go and hire 2 14-year-olds to kill someone?
So the rub in that is that the uncle knew that these two kids, they're minors, they're juveniles. They're not going to get.
Oh, they know the rules. The juveniles know the rules too. They know that they're going to get out.
First offense.
Yeah.
For both of them.
Yes.
They took a deal, but they ended up getting the uncle. I think he served like 20, 25 years, something like that.
See, people like, they say, Red, you act like you hard on crime. I'm like, first of all, I'm trying to do preventive measures early.
Right.
So we don't have to get to a point where we're locking our young people up. Checking them through
the system, putting them through the system. It's probably going to make things worse.
It's going to make things worse, and they're never going to be able to get on their feet like they should. It's always going to be that damper in their life, right? So preventive is the key, but if you can't prevent, you once they're in, we have to have programs inside, like Lorton used to have. Lorton used to have prisoners used to get their degree from UDC in Lorton. They used to have vocational education in Lorton. So when you came home, you went right to work. Yeah, people gonna make mistakes in life.
Right. I think that's so there's, since going to law school, there's no magic bullet. There's intended consequences and there are unintended consequences.
Yeah.
So this piece of legislation, something that you're going to be doing to, juveniles. So anyone younger than 18, right? That's what this is meant for. And the intended consequences is we don't want to ruin someone's life because they made one mistake.
Correct.
That's the intended consequence. The unintended consequence is going to be the uncle that exploits, and like you say, he knows the law. He's going to exploit these young people. So how do you reconcile those two things?
I just think it's a lot of good men that's coming home that have the really get in the ear of these individuals that listen, and we got to grab our community back up. Right now, DC is split.
And how do you do that though?
You got to have a leader that can communicate with people. A perfect example is, and I won't name my friends' names, but two of my friends are two of the biggest in entertainment, and they were going through something. They shouldn't have.
You can name names. It's
No,
okay.
I can't. These are the big ones.
Okay.
No, but they know who they are, and most people know that I stand in the middle of a lot of these fights, and I want to see them get along. But my job is to connect them. I can't tell them to get along, but I can be a connector. And if I can get them the two in the room to talk to each other, then I have just solved one of the major problems. The second one is to get them to understand and agree that our community is being savaged by gun violence, and you have the power to help stop it. And what do we do for these individuals too? Do we bring them into a system? Now they seem like they work for the government. Maybe we do give them stipends. Maybe we do help them out a little bit more.
So that's what you want to do, is sort of help in the council and communicate and work together.
We have a terrible relationship with the council and the executive office and the ANCs.
I'm going to get there.
Okay.
We have some other clips to play.
Okay.
So just
I'm pretty sure you got a lot of clips because I'm a clipper.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a wizard.
So staying on crime.
Right.
So murders by year. Okay.
Well, we had 280 something last year.
274.
I thought it was 274.
Yeah. The year before that was 203. The year before that, 226. Now, it was going up a bit, but it had kind of rounded out by about 100, 150, and then all of a sudden 2020 hits, and boom, it goes up. Over 200, the worst probably since the 90s and early 2000s.
We haven't had a safe city in about, and I want to say 8 to 9, 10 years, when we had about 80 murders.
That was 2012.
Okay, so
2013.
All right, so I know I'm around in that 10 or 11 years. Okay, 11 years.
You're right.
Why was our numbers low? Are we researching this? What was in place at the time?
Right.
What changed about the city?
You're trying to solve the problem.
Right.
So I don't know if you've ever heard this, but there's only 2 ways to solve a problem. You're married.
I am.
You got a problem with your wife. I'm married. If we have a problem, there's only 2 ways to solve it. Do you know what they are?
I want to say you talk it out.
Well, you negotiate and you compromise.
Okay, negotiate. Okay.
That's one way to do it.
Okay. All right.
You negotiate, so you talk it out, and then you come to a compromise.
Okay.
Okay, and to solve the issue.
Right.
Okay. Or what's the other one? There's only 2 ways to solve an issue.
You make love?
Well, you negotiate and compromise. After you negotiate and compromise, then you do that, right? Or, you want me to tell you?
Yeah, tell me.
You fight it out.
I was going to say.
You fight. Okay? And then you come together, and after the fight's done, then maybe, you have.
Think about me and my wife. We never really have ever got in the fight part of it. Like, no, I'm not talking about, not even like raised voice fight. We only probably 2 times in 17 years, right?
That's good. That's great.
But we do every day have that little
contention. There's that contention.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So if we do that, that's an everyday thing.
I think that's probably a healthy.
I think that's where we still together.
Probably. I think it's good to.
Because when that's gone, that means the person don't care anymore.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, they might be in the streets. Then you're in trouble.
Right. So coming back to
crime.
Because we don't want you on the street because your wife's kicked you out of the house committing crime. Here, let's watch this clip from the debate. All right.
Robert's going to talk about his legislation and what he's put in place, but are we safer here in Washington, D.C.? No, we're not. You know, we got to continue to push for safety. We're not safe here. I'm a pragmatic Democrat. That means I think in a common sense way. That means we have to put things in our kids' hands that they want. Vocational education has to come back to Washington, D.C. schools. If we don't bring them back, our kids are going to suffer because we have to be the ones to show them how to deal with financial literacy. We have to be the ones to show them how they are better than what environment they're in. I'm a person who comes from Southeast Washington, D.C. I was in those young men's shoes. I was involved in situations that I could have went one side or the other. And I know certain people came into my life and changed my world. We have to put mentors back into their lives. Our good men out there, I'm talking directly to you. You have to come back and help us, if you're not already helping, to get back into these young people's lives today.
So there have been studies on this, right?
Right.
So
First, I got to tell you, I never look back at my debates. So
you
like,
got to look back at the film.
nah,
No?
nah,
It's like football.
nah.
High school football? No?
I don't look at the film. And the reason why I do see it, but I don't, because this whole movement is a spiritual movement.
For you?
Yeah. So a lot of the things that I speak on is directly coming from God spiritually. And sometimes, like, it's like when I was on stage, like sometimes I live above myself on stage.
Right.
Like I'm on stage, but I'm not, I don't know I'm there. I'm so zoned
It's
out
the zone.
that when I leave the stage, it takes like hours for me to come back to be me.
I think when you're talking about sort of ways to help out the city with crimes, like because I think Robert has the same views on it, mentorship programs, vocational skills.
Let me say about Robert. Robert was not talking about vocational education a month and a half ago.
Okay. What was his stance on it?
His stance was, it was so many people approaching Robert to talk about vocational education, he was kicking them out the door. But when he knew that my base was on vocational education,
Yeah.
he had to talk about it because it was getting too many cheers. Anything that gets cheers from other people, Robert's going to put in his thing.
Right.
He's not original.
Right.
He doesn't make these things up.
So you're saying vocational skills is going to help with the crime, and then what? School, regular school, and college is not for everybody.
Right. So let's break it down all the way.
Sure.
All right. So my company Huff, right? We certified over 6,000 people for job certifications in the last 2 years. Right.
Okay.
Those individuals can take that job certification and go get a job. Right. Same with our young people. They have to have skill training because, as you said, everybody doesn't want to go to college.
It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody. You have to be focused for 4 years or 3.5, 5 maybe. And if you want to go further, 8.
Right.
So it takes a certain focus, maybe 12 if you want to go get your double masters like some people. But when it comes to showing a person a skill that they can make $100,000 immediately, the same amount that most people who get out of college is going to make that same amount.
Maybe not though. I mean, I know people that go to college that they get a liberal arts degree,
Yeah.
and then they get a job at Subway or
Yeah.
bartending, or
Yeah.
you could have had that job at without 4 years of
Right.
college.
Without owing another $100,000.
And then you got $100,000 of college debt that you cannot get rid of. That
Right.
is, you cannot declare bankruptcy. My brother, my older brother, he went to college for 3 years. I think he was a freshman after those 3 years. Still, it just wasn't for him.
Yeah. I mean,
And then he dropped out. He
was a party kid.
He was a party kid. And then now he owns businesses, restaurants in Vegas.
Now,
and he's doing quite well for himself.
And I think that's like how my life was. Right. So everybody.
College wasn't for you.
I mean, I went to college. I loved college. I did everything. I pledged. Became a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. My grade point level was high. I mean, I did better in college than I did in high school.
Did you graduate
From high school?
college?
No, I didn't graduate from Savannah State. I didn't graduate from UDC because I started working for the Department of Parks and Recreation when I went back to UDC.
So you got a job.
Yeah, but I was going to school at the same time.
Yeah.
So I worked at Department of Parks and Recreation coaching kids. I started working at Ridge Road and East Capitol Rec, and all these kids started, calling me Coach Grant, and that was my life. Finished UDC, and then a friend of mine said, "You funny as heck, man. You should go on TV." Russell Simmons, they got a show called Def Comedy Jam, and I was like, "Man, whatever." I went up to Mr. Henry's in Adams Morgan.
Yeah.
I went on stage. I went back to UDC. I lied to the president of the student union. I told him I was a comedian. I heard the Def Comedy Jam was coming. Can you put me on the show? He said, "Oh, I didn't know you was a comedian." I was like, "Yeah, I'm a comedian." He was like, "Yeah, all right, well, yeah, we're going to put you on the show. You go to UDC. Yeah, we're going to put you on the show." They put me on the show. I can remember seeing all these Def Comedy Jam dudes I was seeing on TV. And I went on stage early first. It was Holly. At the time, it was not many people. Someone yelled out in the crowd, and I just had to go back and forth with them. And I didn't really tell any jokes, but I made them laugh. So the producer of Def Comedy Jam said, "Man, you funny as damn. If you get a chance, call me and come up to New Jersey." His name is Bob Summer. He was like, "Come New Jersey. If you went, you come up there, you do well, I'm gonna put you on TV."
It sounds like Mike Tyson.
That's how all Jersey people and New York people sound. But no, and I did, and I did well, and Russell put me on TV.
Right. Yeah, you had a story success.
Man, my story is only, I look back at it as all God, because I was facing like real time when I left. I was left Savannah State and I went to Georgia Southern. I got in a fight there. I was just doing too much, and I was facing real time. I called my mother. I was like, I need a lawyer. And she was like, "I'm not getting you no more lawyers." That's when you know your mother's fed up, when they say, I'm not getting you no more lawyers.
Yep.
And I had to sit and think about things. And when I went to court and the guy didn't show up, the witness and the judge was like, boom, you dismissed. And I came home, started working for Capital Nissan, selling cars, and went back to school. I was in a position that I could have went either way.
I think so. I got made fun of for this, but I think a lot of boys' circumstances, especially in DC. My brother and my dad was a police officer for 20 some years in Milwaukee, and when I think I was 12, my brother was 14. He put us in the holding cell with inmates.
Oh, I know y'all was scared as hell.
Oh my God!
You ain't never want to go back in there again.
There were inmates in there telling us like,
"Oh, it gets real in the holding cell."
Oh.
That's worse than the actual jail itself.
I spent a night in Madison in a holding cell. That was the scariest night of my life.
A night. Oh man, you did it, man. Anybody can stay a night. And I tell them, man, weeks, months.
The holding cell is scary.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And it stinks and it's dirty, it's cold, and it's all of that.
I'm doing the switcher, so my producer isn't here today, so I'm working both
That's
here.
so good.
Let's go to the film.
Here.
Well, for 7 years, Robert has been in council. 2 years he's been running the housing committee. And for him to act like he doesn't understand that the housing is in trouble makes me weary of what you really think. Because he knows housing is terrible. Affordable housing is none. People are being put out their homes, becoming homeless around this city. Encampments are being wiped away. And they're trying to push everybody who was really from D.C. out of Washington, D.C. I am from D.C. I saw the change come, and you have too, Sam, from where we were 79% African Americans to now where we are. And it's a beautiful time. But we can't push our people out and not give them a place to live. And that's what's happening in Washington, D.C. We have to bring equity to the city for our young people. Bring a downtown that's really a downtown. And you said time? Okay. And bring a downtown that is really a downtown.
I hate you can't finish a thought because it's like, oh, you got 1 minute. You got the 1:30.
I just think it's an antiquated method.
It is an antiquated method.
Because, you need time these are complex issues that people are voting on, and you're going to put either you or Robert in charge of these decisions, and most
of these guys are actors worse than the ones I direct.
I have a theory on that. So I think this is the future is sort of long form conversation about these things before the elections, because if you cannot talk about these things substantively, you're going to run out of steam before. So I used to work in TV, and
they run out of steam all the time. I love it when we get 2 minutes and they stop at 101.
Exactly.
And they have nothing else to talk about.
Usually
and then they
that's
go
the
into these long, boring stories. And I was growing up and my brother was locked up for 13 seconds. And that really affected my life. And it bothers me.
I don't think you can do it if you're a legitimate candidate.
Yeah,
because
I went to the hood 3 times. I went to the neighborhood 3 times. You should have seen how it affected. I understand.
That's just my opinion. I think you're right. My wife told me not to insert my opinion on here, but
no, you should assert your opinion all the time. I think that's the problem. I think we should all be able to assert our opinions when it comes to these issues, because we know we have been brainwashed by people who say they care about us.
I think it's easier to have one-liners on TV where the camera, and then you just wave by, and it's a lot harder to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult what you're doing right now.
I mean, it's not difficult when you really able to answer questions and be transparent.
Right.
And when you make a mistake, be accountable for the mistake. That's just what it is. That's the household I came from. Suzette was one of those mothers that did not allow you not to be accountable.
Right. So the debate gets a little heated here.
Heated?
A little bit.
Let me see. He's hold on. Can you go? You can't go back, huh?
I can go back.
Okay. He said
It's very.
That's when really he was picking at me right there.
He said you were vague.
Vague, I know. Okay. And as you see, me and you talk right here. I'm not vague. I understand what the hell I'm talking about. I have points in situations that I understand how to get out of as a human. So maybe I don't speak like a lawyer, but I'm never vague. So when he said that, I was just like, okay.
What was he accusing you of being vague about?
I don't know. Whatever the clip was before. Maybe we can go back. Hold on. Oh yeah, about housing. He said I was vague on housing because I actually put him involved with it.
Right.
So, when you call people on their BS and they try to separate themselves, like.
So he's trying to get back at you a bit.
He's trying to really, when he says I'm vague, he's trying to tell people he's stupid.
That's how you took it. That's how you felt.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Here, let's watch the exchange.
Is it my turn to take over the housing committee? Is it my turn or your turn? It's my turn. It's my turn to take your place. It's my turn. Gentlemen, okay, we are getting up ideas. We're going to make sure our city is safe again. It is Mr. White's turn to speak. Yes, thank you. This is how these things work.
But you should play it from there, because he had nothing to say after that. When you show vague after that.
So
show vague. Like when you speak about vague, and someone calls you on something, and you cannot even, you have nothing to say. That's vague.
Okay, we're gonna have Robert. He's gonna come on.
Good.
Here. He's gonna have an opportunity to.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna have fun.
I mean, I'm having fun right now with you.
But you're gonna have fun when someone's sitting in front of you being false.
So housing, right? This is an issue that you guys were touching on in D.C. right now, and Robert has a role in this now, currently in his position.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife and I we used to own a house in Southeast D.C.
Mm-hmm.
We had a standalone 3-story house in Hillcrest, and our neighbors were great. They were fantastic people, but I think a lot what was happening was that some of the older generation that were purchasing the houses, and the houses are pretty much paid off,
mm-hmm.
and but the taxes on them were getting to be high.
Yep.
In certain areas. Northwest is going to be a lot different than Southeast versus Northeast versus Southwest. To explain to people like how that all works.
All right. Well, I grew up in right down the street from where you bought
So
your
we were
house.
at 31st and Pennsylvania.
Okay, so I grew up at Pennsylvania and Minnesota.
Yep.
And Pennsylvania and Branch. So that whole,
Yep.
Hillcrest area, those are the hills I ran to get in shape for football.
Right.
But when it comes to taxes, a lot of individuals bought homes for 100,000.
Right.
They purchased them. My mom's was one of those individuals.
Right.
$100,000 house, super expensive at the time. I mean,
Right.
$100,000.
Some beautiful homes over there.
It's wonderful homes. Marion Barry used to live at the top of the hill, Alabama and Branch. And we used to always ride past like, oh, this is Marion Barry's house. We couldn't believe that he lived in our neighborhood and made us feel so good. Gave us a sense of pride. But when it comes to the taxes, a lot of seniors are getting kicked out their homes because of tax issues. Paid their home off, but they still got to pay taxes.
Right.
Right. We don't give them any breaks at all.
What's the solution to that? Because what you're talking about.
Solution is giving people breaks.
Right. Tax breaks.
Yes.
So what's happening is, to my understanding,
You can give them tax breaks or you can give them money. Which one are you going to give them? I'd rather give them tax breaks.
Right. Not a handout.
No, because they're our seniors. They worked in our community. They live in our community. They're a big part of our community. They're at an age where they cannot go and get the jobs that will make the money to pay.
That they used to. Yep.
Yeah. So why we're not giving them breaks and why we're not calling it something and take taxes and make it make sense, because that's how a lot of people are losing their homes right now.
Well, to my understanding, if you paid for your house $100,000, back in the 2000s or something there, in the 90s, and then it's all paid off.
80s. Let's say 80s.
80s. Okay. So then it's all paid off
Right.
by today.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but the appraised value is like $600,000-$700,000.
Right. So what? All that equity, you don't want to help people out, and they have equity in their homes. The only thing about it is once they pull that equity down, they got another bill to
now they have to pay the mortgage again.
Correct. So we got.
There's
That's why we don't want them to have to do that. We want them to be able to say, look, I worked all my life in Washington, D.C. for the D.C. government, or I worked for the federal government, because D.C. people, we work for the government.
Right.
And some of us are in private, but for the most part, we have to have a sense of love, care, and respect again. It's like a community. You say you're from Thailand, right?
I'm not from Thailand.
But you have Thai parents.
My mom is Thai.
Okay.
She moved here. She was born in Thailand.
Did they teach you any Asian culture?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a respect.
There's a very, very profound respect for parents and elderly people, grandparents. Yeah, that's in the culture.
So we got to bring that needs to be
You wanna
taught in
bring
America.
that back.
In America, period.
America, it's very. So my wife's Egyptian. Her parents.
I've seen kids cuss grandparents out.
Yeah.
And I had to be like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. That's it's something.
Then they cuss you out.
Yeah. There's a lack of respect for people that are older. Yeah.
But then now you got to find out, why is that young person doing that? What is he hurting about?
Is it parent? That's the parent's job, right?
No, it's not just the parent's job. Parents definitely have to be responsible for their children. But once they get to a certain level and they just like, I don't care what my parents talking about. Who's going to help them then?
DC Council.
Somebody in there better care. Somebody in there better be able to go to the community and speak on it. Somebody better be in the council to say, look, it's 13 of us. Our kids are crying out. I know we made a bill about this and we made a bill about this, but we really need to focus on this.
How can you do that, though, practically speaking? You can't go to everybody's house and knock on their door and say you need to respect your elders, right?
No, you can't, but you can use your voice. We have all these media outlets in front of us. We got this, You got this, TV. You don't think we can get to our kids?
So you're talking about more like strong leadership qualities
That
as
they
opposed
listen to.
legislation.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Murray was that leader for us. Murray gave us summer jobs, made us feel good. Now we got to expand the program, make it year-long. Give these kids a year-long expansions of summer youth program. It's just call it youth program, and just know it's an all-year thing. And you're going to get stipends, and you're going to work all your work. We're going to make sure you get taken care of, and we got to put money aside for that. I know it sounds like it's something that's not doable, but it's very doable. If we can put money aside for other things, we can help the most vulnerable people. That's what the money should be going toward anyway. And anybody in the city that feels like it should be going toward more people that's rich or got already established.
Right.
I don't need you to send it to me. I don't need the government.
Right.
I was chilling in Los Angeles, kicking it.
And now you came back.
Making millions of dollars.
Now you came back.
Working 2 days a week.
Right.
And God said, I want you to sell everything out here. Tell your wife to retire. And get in these kids' lives in Washington, D.C. And that's what I did. And I'm not going to stop until people understand that that's the mission that everybody should be on. Get off your high horse, get off your rocker. It's purpose over popularity. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what you've done in life. If you ain't helping these young kids and these young people to be successful, then you're a part of the problem. And it don't matter if it's legislation or humanality.
You think they're tied?
It is.
People in positions of leadership have to serve their community from a higher place.
They got voted there. The people in the community put them there. You fake like you was a part of the community. Then when the community needs you, you act like you don't know nothing.
Two very different candidates, you and Robert.
Totally different.
Totally different.
Totally different.
I want to play another clip here for you.
You know, and since you brought it up, you both ran against the mayor, right? last
Sam was having a
election.
good time.
What do you think of the mayor?
I wish we could work with the mayor, but this started before I got to the council. No council member, no attorney general has been able to. And it's unfortunate. It is not to the benefit of the city. But what you see is I work with my colleagues very well. I work with the attorney general very well. And I've tried multiple times to work with the mayor. The reality is that our politics are different. And I have to keep my politics focused on the people, accountability of our government, and I'm not going to compromise those things. So yes, in an ideal world, the mayor will work with the legislative branch, but that's not the world we live in. So I work in the system that exists as I work to improve it.
Man.
You think she threw y'all under the bus on this crime bill?
She threw us under the bus on everything. The mayor is responsible for public safety, and she has fallen flat. She has a budget of about $1 billion to keep the city safe, and she has people convinced that it is the council that's not keeping us safe. I think it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Accountability goes to the top of the government, and if you don't want that accountability, you should abdicate that seat.
You ran against her too.
Yes, I did. I came in second in the general election, and it was a great fight. And I look at life like this. We're not going to agree on everything, but as long as you care about these young people in Washington, D.C., I can work with you. If you're looking at these young people like, man, I don't need to deal with them, I don't need to work with them, then I can't deal with you. So I'm more of a person that I want to put these programs in place. I want to make sure that the relationships between the council and the mayor is right, because when we're not working together as a council, mayor, and the chair, because those are our branches of government, there's only 13 people that have to make decisions in Washington, D.C. government, the mayor, the chair, and the 12 council members.
So what do you think of the mayor?
I think that she has been in office for 2 terms, and I think that a lot of people are critical of her. And right now, my thing is the mayor, she never done any bad thing to me. I just think that she's not listening to the constituents all the time, you know, and we all got to be better listeners in life. But, you know, she's still a black woman in America, and she's still trying her best. And she needs people she can count on and talk to. You know, maybe she needs to call a Red Grant so I can come and just say, hello, this is what we're doing in the community. Let's take these programs
Okay.
to the next level.
So both of you sort of say it's difficult to work with the mayor.
I mean, I don't have to work with her on a daily basis right now.
Right now you don't.
No, I don't. So I can't say it's difficult to work with the mayor.
Robert was very quick to say that. Why do you think that is? Maybe that's just a better question for him.
All right, so now you can ask him this question when he comes, because I can't. It's not just the mayor that people that don't get along with Robert White. It's the council too. Go ask him. The whispers are there. Well, I don't mess with him. I don't like him. Because he talking about throwing under the bus. He will throw you under the bus. So, I look at life like it's not easy to be a mayor of a city. It's not easy to be a council member or ANC. But once you're there, you got to make it your duty to try to work with everybody. You know, me and you don't know each other from a grain of salt. We met each other one time. But it's my duty to be able to work with you and have a great conversation. We're not going to agree on everything. We come from different backgrounds and we see things in a different perspective. But we do have more similarities than we have differences, and we need to focus on those similarities.
So, again, fight it out, negotiate, compromise.
Hey, man. I guess those two things work in government too, huh? Just like in households.
I think in all relationships.
Yeah, I think so.
So when it comes to the mayor, if you're elected, hey, mayor wants to do this, Red Grant wants to do this, you're gonna, like, if you're on opposite ends, what do you do?
We gotta go take a long car ride to Waldorf or something and sit outside the city and just really have a real conversation. Like, we all humans, you know. She got people in her ear. I'm gonna have people in my ear. We're gonna feel like it's, you know, it's a certain way that we see DC. But at the end of the day, I think we all want DC to be one of the greatest cities in the world. I think we all want DC young people to be successful and safe. I think we want our seniors to live in a way that they can enjoy the rest of their lives. So let's talk about the things that we can have similar thoughts on. And then let's try to negotiate the things that we don't.
So wrapping up with the debate. So we have one more clip here.
Is it a good one?
It's your sort of last sort of statement.
Okay.
And just wanted to get your thoughts on how you wrapped it up here.
Probably terrible.
Hey, I thought you were very genuine. I mean, these things matter when it comes to, you're on camera. It's a difficult situation. You get 30 seconds to a minute to talk about something like this. It's tough. It's not easy.
Nah.
Grant.
We know raising taxes have kicked so many people out of this city. They lost their homes. A lot of my family lost their homes because of tax hikes. Me and my wife paid more taxes than our home actually costs a month, the monthly payment of the home.
True statement.
So we have to have tax cuts. We have to give people breaks. And if we have the opportunity to give people breaks, why not give them breaks? You have people going to seniors who've been living in their homes forever that don't have an ability to pay their rent and kicking them out their home. When are we gonna have some compassion? When people are in office, they know what's going on. They know what our seniors are struggling with, and they know what our communities are struggling with. And it irks me when they act like they don't, like they didn't see the paperwork right in front of them. You know, like they care. You know, I direct films, and I've seen worse actors than this worst actor.
You see Sam look.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to rebut that. Since
If you
okay.
wish.
Okay, I'm not sure what.
You can rebut
But
everything
are
I
you gonna let
say.
me do my rebuttals, brother? 'Cause I'm not
You
gonna
can
cut
do-
you off, but give me the
you
same
can,
respect.
You can rebut. I'm
Give
asking
me
the
the
question.
same
You
respect.
can rebut.
All right, that's
everything
the
that I
last
do.
time.
That's
That's the last
not the
time,
last time. You don't point
If
your
you got
finger at
something
me.
to say,
Who
say
do
it on
you
your
think
time.
you are?
All
You're a
right.
weak
If you
lawyer.
got something to
You're a
say, say it
terrible
on your
lawyer.
time.
Gentlemen.
And you're gonna get out of our city.
Okay.
All right,
say
gentlemen,
that.
we did ask for
terrible
respect.
lawyer.
So let's
You're a
get a
terrible
30,
council member.
30-second response. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
He had no response.
So explain. Go through that. Walk us through that. I can tell there's some history between you guys.
It's really not.
No.
I mean, other than no, it's not really history. It's more of I met Robert a few times, and he made way of supporting, but he went dry on supporting me. As you know, we talked about supporting each other, like for real, in real life. Like if you become that person, I'm gonna support you in the community. If you become the mayor, I'm gonna support you, because that's what people do. And it took Robert 2 years to call me. And you know when Robert called me? The day after I made my announcement to run for D.C. Council at Large. 2 years. And people want people to pick their phone up. I mean, maybe I'm being petty. Maybe I should pick the phone up. But if we screaming out that these kids need help for 2 years, communities need help for 2 years, and the only time you call back is when you think your job is at stake, then you show me what type of person you are.
So he had an opportunity, if I'm understanding you correctly.
He had an opportunity
to reach out to you to because you're giving back to the community, and maybe you guys can work together. And
correct.
And it never happened.
Never. And this is not just me saying this. There's other people who said this.
Did you call him?
I can honestly say I did not call Robert.
Okay.
But I was the one who called him first.
Okay.
So I reached out, and then he said he would. He hung up, and I hadn't talked to him since.
Until you
correct.
You applied.
So now we don't even really talk to each other at all.
Now you're.
It's really bad right now.
Okay.
Like the tension, me and him in this room you would feel uncomfortable.
I wanted you guys to do this separately because
I'm glad you did, because it would have been an uncomfortable household for you.
I wanted both of you to get an opportunity to
speak your mind and your piece.
Well,
you don't want that in your house. You don't want, because first of all, you live here with your wife. This
is my home office.
Hey, this is your home office. You don't want that energy in your house. You want it to be separate. You just,
I wanted Red Grant energy to come here. That was for sure.
You definitely have to,
I don't know if you remember this, but you met my wife. We were at the brunch of our mutual friend.
I remember that.
Yeah, and
that was a good brunch too.
That was a great time, and we were having a conversation.
Shout out to Vonna and Anton.
Yeah.
I gotta give them shout out to my folks.
So I was talking with you, and I was like, man, this guy's hilarious. And then Anton's like, he's a stand-up comic. Like, he opened for Cat Williams. I'm like, really? I'm like, that's why he's funny. But we had a really great conversation about DC, and I don't have a horse in the race. I can't even vote in this because I don't live in DC. But I could tell from my interaction with you that you genuinely cared about the community, the constituents, and that's not an endorsement from me. Nobody knows who I am, but but I could just tell. I could tell you genuinely cared about.
I mean, we all can tell genuinely. We know when.
Just the way you were speaking about it.
You know, in Washington D.C., we take pride in knowing when someone is
I can tell.
fake.
Yeah, I could tell. I could tell.
You know, we know it, and you know, we got words for it.
Oh, what are the words?
Obama.
Obama. I've never heard of this.
Well, ask any DC person what Obama is.
I'm afraid to now.
They're gonna tell you. Look up the meaning of Bama.
Okay. Okay.
And we're not talking about Alabama. We're talking about the word Bama. Once they put that on you,
That's it. Okay. Any other words?
he's a Bama.
He's Obama. Okay. Okay. So
And now only DC people understand what I'm talking about. Like if you're from any other place in the world, you don't know what I'm talking about. But every place in the world has a word for somebody in their city that's fake. Whatever your word is your word. And I mean, you know, people got to be who they are.
So going back to, you know, you said that Robert didn't call you at all these programs that you're starting up in schools and you're
We
out.
call Robert about a lot of things. People call Robert about vocational education 3.5 years ago. You know, Black Women for Justice approached him. He didn't want to deal with it. Now he's acting like he's Mr. Vocational Education. No, look at the history. Look at the voting on it. Why haven't you put it in place in 7 years? You've been in there 7 years, right? You just started talking about it 3 months ago. You did a declaration. That's disrespectful because there's so many elements of vocational education for our young people that can really get them out of a situation.
Bad situations. You
Hell
want
yeah.
to sort of divert their time and energy and focus into something that can be useful.
I want them to see that people really care about them and show them a different way to look at it. You know, just like me and you learn. You learn through your environment.
Right.
That's what you wanted to be, a lawyer, right?
Correct.
So I learned through my environment, I wanted to be a football player. Didn't know I was going to not be a football player, but then I wanted to be an entertainer too.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wanted to be a businessman. I also want to be a filmmaker. I also want to be a producer, executive producer. And I've had my hands in all of it. But they all start with a young little boy who didn't know which way he
who
wanted
got in
to
trouble
go.
too. Who got in trouble. I think your level of success is extremely rare, though. It's the exception to the general rule.
But it can be taught.
It can be.
And if they fall, even if you fall short of what you think success is, Donnie Sims used to say it every morning. Reach for the moon or shoot for the moon. And even if you miss, you still be amongst the stars. So we got to make them think to shoot for that moon. Don't get distracted with BS.
Yeah.
Go for your goals. That's the moon. Don't be distracted. Go for your goals. So no matter if you can keep distractions out of your life long enough, then you grow up.
Right.
Then your brain matures.
Right. My dad used to say this. He doesn't remember that he used to say this, but he used to.
They never do.
He used to say this. He does remember this. You got to have a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, right? And then you got to have a target, but multiple targets too. And those targets can move and they can shift.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a target, your probability of hitting it is 0%.
0%.
But if you do have targets, you have a probability of hitting those targets. And like you said, they can move and shift. Like I didn't know I was going to go to law school. And then it became a target, and it became a moving target because it was hard. It was difficult. And I didn't fully know if I was going to pass.
And that's the risk that we want.
It's a risk.
We want people to feel comfortable with that risk, right? The position that I'm in right now, running for at-large council member, is a risk for me. But I'm cool with risk. It was risky for me to run for mayor. It's risky for me to get an entertainment. It was risky for me to marry a beautiful woman and say, I'm going to make her my wife for a long time and I'm not going nowhere. It's risky.
Life's full of risks, but you can't be afraid.
Can't. It's
Yeah.
risk having a kid.
Right.
Kids.
I have a theory on that. I wanted to get into DC education, sort of, we're done with the debates, but I understand your position on this. But some would argue that there's only so much you can do, right?
That's true.
At the DC Council,
That's the truth.
legislation, working within your community. At the end of the day, the parents have the biggest say.
Yeah.
And I did, in law school, I did the juvenile and special education law clinic. And I got to see the DCPS firsthand. And there were some really great schools that had vocational programs in it. Some of the kids that were, I believe, were the happiest and the most focused on what they were doing was the music studio. So they were mixing and recording things. So I got to tour a lot of schools.
Right.
But a lot of the kids, just in the classrooms, I think it was rough for a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean.
So just can you as a parent, what falls on the parent versus what falls on the larger community in DC Council?
Well, let's say first of all, when you become a parent, you take on that responsibility of what a parent is, right?
And what is that?
A parent is a person who has a kid, takes care of that kid, teaches that kid as much as they know positively, and protects that kid all at the same time. Once they're at a certain age, that parent is still a parent. You let them out in the world, but you still care and love them.
I think that's absent a lot in America too.
It is.
When you're 18, like my dad was like, when you're 18,
Mine
you
too.
go.
My mother did the same.
But
thing.
my mom was not like
My
that.
mother was like, if you come here, you're gonna, yeah. But I had a single mother too, so it was a little different. My father gave me, he was a little bit more lenient because he wasn't in the house. He didn't have to really deal with me in a direct manner all the time. So, but a lot of times when things happen in school and we have an opportunity to bring a parent in and a student in, that's when we should be really watching their behavior with one another and asking them what do they really need. Maybe they need extra counseling sessions at home. A lot of people go to therapy that can afford therapy. Well, when you can't afford therapy, where do you go?
Counselor, school counselor?
Yeah, but some people don't want to go to the school counselor. They don't feel comfortable enough talking to the school counselor. We got to make it a little bit more. I'm going to send somebody out to you on a weekly basis, check on you. This is a system that could be lovely. And maybe people might look back at these interviews that we had today, 20 years from now, and maybe say, Red was right. But that's what I'm here to do. Shake the bush.
So piggybacking on education, DCPS has its own issues. Kids that from DC that maybe want to go to college, but maybe it's not for them.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe that they do want to go to college and it is for them. They face other challenges. So we're gonna end the DC debate stuff. We're gonna go on a lighter note. Maybe a lighter note. I'm not entirely sure.
I mean, the debate wasn't that heavy. It was more like people need to really understand that we have a system in place, but sometimes the people in the system are the problem.
Mm-hmm.
system is not always the problem.
The people within the system.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
You know, you worked in an office where harmony is there, and you worked in an office where harmony is not there.
That's correct.
And it's usually one or two people that mess the harmony up.
Yeah. If you bring one person in, they can definitely disrupt an entire team.
Yeah, they've done that in prisons. Like they do that at prisons right now. You know, look at I think it's Arkansas. They got the unlocked where they are testing to see if they can keep the doors open in a certain cell block. And how
I've heard about this.
And how would individuals become a community?
Right.
Everything was a community, and they put somebody in the community that wasn't understanding the community, and then that's when the friction and tension started.
Yep.
That's life.
Right.
You know, it's not. Some people just don't know how to live in a community.
I mean, this D.C. Council, you're working with other people. I mean, like you said, there's 13 of you. So, and then the mayor's office, and then there's other things.
You know what word I hate the most?
Go ahead.
When they use colleague.
Colleague. What? Why?
Because most people in business know that when somebody says, that's my colleague, it's not really your friend.
Okay.
It's just somebody I work with. Because if we were partners and buddies in that, you'd be like, my friend over here in the aisle or over here, I'm not going to call you my colleague. I'm going to call you my friend. Because I'm working with you. I'm trying to get further with you. The word colleague is like, okay. Because I don't have colleagues. In the business I come from, we don't have colleagues.
Okay. I'm worried now because I sent emails saying my colleagues need this over here.
Well, your colleagues, but you and your colleagues need to talk about it. Where are we at? Are we colleagues, or are we colleagues, friends? You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I hear that a lot on the council. I hear them talk a lot. My colleague, and they rolling their eyes at the same time when they do it. My colleague, just say, you don't like me. We don't get along. We don't agree with things. We're humans. Okay.
But if we work together in the future, I won't call you my colleague.
No, don't. Just call me your friend.
It's an insult.
I've been at your house.
Okay. So we're gonna play a game called Agree or Disagree.
Okay.
So we're gonna watch a clip here.
Is this rapid fire kind of like?
No, it won't be.
Okay, cool.
It won't be. No, if you want me to pause it at any time too, like just let me say stop it right here.
Okay.
But have you seen this clip?
This
is great. I think it was a couple years ago, but it's Dr. Phil. Okay.
Okay.
Watch this. This is fantastic. You know who Candace Owens is?
Yes.
And
she's like the whitest black woman in America.
Okay. Here we go. They're talking about affirmative action. So I thought we'd pivot from DCPS, DC education into this.
Okay.
I want to introduce Mala Epinobi, who is a conservative podcast host and a public speaker. Mala, you've been listening to everything that we've been talking about here. Yes. I said there may be a third factor here. They don't have the opportunities in some of the...
I went to a conference 2 weeks ago. I met Amala.
But she's mad in this moment. Read her spirit right now.
Yeah, you'll see.
Okay. Because I'm just, I read people's spirits.
Right. Here we go.
Schools are coming from to get prepared, and that has to be addressed, but we can get back to that in a minute. But what do you think about what we're talking about so far?
Right. I'll talk to your example that you gave about the Monopoly game and a white person being able to run the track twice over and a black person starting after that. The solution is not to then pick up the black person and run them around the lap 4 times. The solution is to fix the game and make that equal, which would be a race-neutral future. We should not be looking at race when it comes to college admissions at all. And when it comes to things like affirmative action, if we truly said we cared about minorities, it wouldn't be disproportionately affecting Asian Americans, as Candace said, like it is now. Why do we not care about that minority group?
We absolutely care about...
Do you agree with or disagree that race should be a factor when determining college admissions? So essentially affirmative action.
America is the only country in the world that deals with this BS.
Okay. Why is it BS?
Well, first, America has not
hold on. Let's do you
Because this is a deep situation.
It's a deep sensitive subject.
Okay.
Do you agree with affirmative action? You should be able to factor race into with college admissions, because there's Supreme Court cases on this now.
Affirmative action was put in place.
Do you agree or disagree?
I agree that we should have affirmative action in place to protect people when people are trying to take advantage of individuals.
Okay. So let's finish the clip, and then because they expand upon it a bit.
Cool.
So
all minority groups, just like we care about all students. But I think everyone has a significant misunderstanding of these policies. They're comprehensive or holistic in nature. This is one factor among many other factors. And then we say, across all those factors, looking at these and taking them in tandem, is this student best prepared? Because it's not just about your intelligence. That's important. It's also about your drive, about your resilience, about your ability to overcome challenges. Yeah. And that's what makes you successful.
Even with those factors taken into account, Asian students and white students are discriminated against when compared to their Black counterparts. How is that the case? And it seems that with affirmative action, we've dictated we care about Black students, we care about Hispanic students. These are the minorities who are going to benefit from this, and Asians are not, and Native Americans. But the through line is not necessarily socioeconomic status. It doesn't seem to be resources. It seems to be that these are the minority groups that we feel bad for. We don't feel bad for Asian Americans because they have a culture of high academic standing. They have a culture of drive and of facing adversity. We look at Black students and Hispanic students and Native American students.
We are inferior, and
we pity them.
That's what makes my blood boil. I mean, it's just, I am not less than you because you are white. I don't need you to look at me and feel bad for me because of the color of my skin. And that's effectively what you're doing every time you take an application and you say, oh, well, this girl's Black, so I kind of feel bad for her, so I'm going to put her at the top of a line. It's just not necessary. I believe, right, that Black Americans are capable of performing in the same capacity as their white peers. You two don't actually believe that, because if you support affirmative action, you are basically saying that Black Americans cannot do it on their own.
No, what I'm saying is that there's a history of racism and exclusionary practices. And instead, we're reducing it all the way down just to race. And what these admissions practices are actually doing is saying, no, there's a constellation of factors that we're considering in the holistic review of this application.
So race from the applications
is basically making it about race. You're saying these are the Black people, these are the white people, these are the Asian people, these are the Native American people, as you mentioned. But as one of the audience members said, what about people who are of mixed race? You know, I'm of mixed background. What am I supposed to mark on an application? Am I supposed to mark multiple boxes? And plus, if you are painting people as an oppressor, if you're white,
that's a terrible thing to tell someone to do.
Well, it's the truth because you believe in affirmative action. So I said mark Black. If you're a mixed student, I'm in an interracial relationship, so I can speak to this. I have a son that's half white and a son that's half Black and a daughter that's half white and half Black. Okay. They're going to mark Black because I know that there are people like you at the universities who will say, well, because this person is Black, I'm just going to let them in.
No, they're going to mark Black because they're Black.
Well, they're half Black and half white. They're both, right? So it is true. You overlook interracial students.
But
so what do you mean? Why are you saying they're going to mark
socialized in our society?
So the answer is if you can't, I mean, you can mark both. Can you mark both? I don't know if you can. Yes. What are you going to look at that applicant as a little bit less because they're half white? How do you guys figure that out?
How they look at it is, again, holistically across a number of different factors.
I love me a buzzword. Holistically and racial consciousness.
Oh yeah, reverse discrimination. There's a buzzword.
It's not reverse discrimination. It's just discrimination. It's just racism if you're judging people on the basis of their skin color. I don't know why this is so difficult. I mean, you have to go through an extraordinary amount of school. You almost have to have a PhD to not be able to see this.
That was really good.
Okay, so agree or disagree with Candace and Amala?
You can't put me in that situation. I can say that in their head, they're right. In their head. And in my brother's head, he think he's right.
Right.
I don't agree with any of them.
What would your stand?
Because I don't agree with them not understanding that they're pretty much saying the same thing from a different perspective. Candace doesn't want anyone to give her opportunities because of her skin color. Mm-hmm. The brother is like, you should give people opportunities because of their skin color, because of how they've been treated. And they both have that feeling. My feeling exactly about affirmative action. Mm-hmm. I didn't bring slaves over here to America. I didn't torture people for hundreds and hundreds of years and make them work for free. And then when they got their freedom, they treated them like dogs. I didn't do that. But now that that happened, what is the, let me say this right.
What's the remedy?
Yes. Is reparations the remedy? Do you give every black person $20 million and say, look, everybody got 20 million. Let's make the economy better. Let's get you social help. Let's get you psychological help if you need it. You know, some people gonna spend the 20 million in one day, but at least when we dealing with black and white, my wife is black and white. You know?
Your wife is mixed race.
Yes. So, and her black father and her white mother, I treat them both the same. R.I.P. Diane, but treat them all the same. Because they treated me the same. So it's really about treatment.
Martin Luther King Jr., content of your character, not the color of your skin.
It's about treatment. If I come in here and treat you like some trash, you're going to be like, what?
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's about treatment. How we treating each other. If that person needs help, can we help him? Not look at him like he should pick himself up by his bootstrap. He in the street now.
Well, I think that's the problem with what they're talking about is college admissions. They're looking at pieces of paper, you know, and it's hard to make that judgment just from a piece of paper. Now, if there is a socioeconomic issue with somebody coming from a poor background.
The problem is that you say Princeton or Yale or Harvard, and you say Morehouse, Savannah State, then they start to say, well, there's no way they can touch us. They can't have the scholars that we have. We scholar our scholars. But at the end of the day, that human is trying to learn, get to a place of happiness, and we all trying to get to a place of happiness. So my happy might not be your happy. My happy might be waking up and giving all my money away to the homeless. Yours might be being on the beach, you know, with your feet up on a yacht. I mean, but happy, we want people to be happy again. Money is not the happiness.
The college admissions too. You and I talked about this before. I mean, if someone goes to school and they're not meant for school, like my brother was not meant for school, and then they go, and then they're just in a bad situation, and you feel like you have to finish, otherwise, you've wasted all that money, and then
Yeah, but like, I mean, school is what you make it. You know, if you want to learn something, you're gonna learn.
Right.
Some people have not been taught the method of learning.
Right.
And I say that because it took me a while to understand how study habits, you have to have them. You know, you got to be able to stay focused for a certain amount of time.
Right.
You know, you got to be able to read over till you understand it. Right. These are the things that make you smarter.
Yep.
Repetitiveness.
Right.
Right. So people do this in neighborhoods that's not trying to get no education. They become smarter in different things, skill levels.
Right.
They do it over and over and over and over and over. We just want to put the right skill levels in people's hands so they be happy.
Right.
And we do that, you know, my happiness and your happiness, it's the same.
Okay, we're gonna go to another clip. So we're touching on culture here, right? And this is specifically.
This is important
My
because you know, this is what no other show will talk
Policing,
about, but
crime.
it has to be talked about. Are we reacting with data and facts and reality to the police problem, or are we just reacting?
No, I think that's a false question. So are we reacting to data? The data shows that in the past year, 1,010 people as of today have been killed by law enforcement. We know that Black people in this country are 2 times more likely to be killed by law enforcement than their white colleagues, right?
But there is also the factor of how many interactions with Black people.
That's called poor policing. I mean, that's called
crime disparity.
That's called broken.
When Black people account for 50% of murder victims.
Okay, do you know Coleman Hughes?
No.
Victims and perpetrators, and are overrepresented in contacts with the police, you have to take that into account.
You also take into account over policing of those communities as well. But
most Black people in America say they do not want the police defunded. Many say they want as many or more police.
Well, so defunding the police, just so we can be clear, since the world is watching us, does not mean that.
Go. Why do you laugh?
I laugh because everybody has their own meaning of what defunded police is, right? You know, I come from a home, my wife was a police officer.
Right, so you can speak to this.
Yeah, you know, she was out in these streets and she did come home some nights and just be like, you didn't know what was on her mind, you know? And she wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, she might have been wrestling with a 6'7", 400-pounder, you know, as a 135-pound woman.
Tough job.
Tough job. So when we speak about defund, and a lot of people got caught up during the pandemic because there was a lot going on with policing. And it was a lot of mistreatment of people.
I think that's what Bill Maher is trying to get at. Are we being reactionary to something that may have happened, or are we going about this with facts and data?
All right.
You want to finish?
Yeah, let's finish. And then I'll speak to it.
Okay.
When I call 911 or my mom calls 911, the police will not show up. But what it does mean is that we won't have bloated police budgets, but instead we'll have after-school centers. Instead, we'll have mental health professionals who arrive on the scene. Instead, we will actually be able to build community. That's what that means.
But I want to get back to the point. We can partly agree on that. I think we need less policing of petty drug crime.
Correct. Look at that. Look at that. We're making progress.
Right, but more policing of homicide and violent crime in neighborhoods where over half of crimes or violent crimes are not getting solved. So it's a complex. To me, just people have this idea that I want to see the police budget cut by half. I want to see the police improve, whatever that means for the budget. That might mean spending more to train them more, and so on and so forth.
But I think we agree because not fully, but I just don't want less police. I just want better police, right?
Right. So that's the issue we're because I work.
Do you know Bakari Sellers?
I've seen him many times.
Yeah.
I haven't bought his book or anything like that, but I've seen him.
Unrest in the streets and over something that may not be true. Now, Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal commented about Breonna Taylor yesterday. They got a world of shit about it today. And I think what they were saying is, we don't know if this is a racist cop killing or just plainly it's horrible policy. No-knock entries.
Yeah, but
plainly anyone's going to get killed in that situation.
I agree, and I think we don't need to have no-knock warrants. We don't need to have chokeholds. We need to ban those across the board. I think Democrats and Republicans alike. If you want to take from tonight's show a policy initiative, it's that. However, it's not the fact of the killing of Breonna Taylor per se. It's the fact that there was a lack of accountability. That is the biggest issue. It's the lack, because, and Malcolm X said it best. I didn't think I would be quoting Malcolm X on Bill Maher tonight, but Malcolm X always talked about the fact that the most disrespected person on the planet is the Black woman, period. And we see that day in and day out, but it's the lack of accountability. You cannot tell me that if that was a white woman who was asleep, the police came in her house, fired 20 shots, that there would be no accountability, no indictments for the murder of that woman.
So 5 years ago, a white man named Derek Cruz, in a very similar situation, no-knock warrant, they shot him in the face, completely unarmed. What that tells me is there is a much deeper issue than racism. There's a reflexive urge to go to the race issue. I understand it, but the truth is that police in general generally do not get punished for misbehavior.
Well,
It's very rare, and it's white, it's black.
Well,
so we have to solve that issue, of course, but reflexively making it about race.
And this is they're
Well, I mean, they both have great points.
Do you agree with Coleman Hughes or disagree?
Is that the one to the right?
That's the one to the right.
I mean, he had good points. He got points. You know, I just feel like we're in a society that is really tense right now.
These are difficult things to talk about.
It's tense. It's tense right now.
And you're running for politics right now. Which
Yeah,
I think
but you
is-
know, but when it comes to no-knock warrants and you coming in people's houses and you know, it's training. My wife always talks about
I
training.
think training. My dad talks about it too.
Like
It's
police
more,
training.
more training, better training.
That's my wife always says that to me. I'll be like, well, why didn't it? She was like, they gotta be better trained.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know,
How long did your wife do it for?
over 20-some, 20-some years.
I mean, these are the experts, I think. Your wife, my dad, you know, political views aside, you know, I think that's probably the proper
training,
solution.
man. Training. That's what everything in life, though. You train a person up to be something special, they're gonna be something special. You train a pit bull to be a fighter, it's gonna be a fighting pit bull.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. If you train them to be nice, it's nice pit bulls.
Right.
They just so many people train them to be mean because they have that streak in them.
Right.
But for the most part, they're nice. It's the same with anything else.
So when it comes to what Mr. Sellers was talking about, where you bring social workers to the scene to sort of help de-escalate situations.
Yeah, my wife been talking about that. She's been saying that there should be ride-alongs with social workers. They should have their own car, pull up when it's a situation where it might be a psychological situation. It might not be a situation where you know, have to pull your weapon.
But what about if, let's say in that scenario, I mean, are you going to give social workers weapons?
No, because you got police officers there.
Police officers are there. You know, at some point, what happens if a social worker gets injured or
I mean, that's a part of the job, though. You got to you got to know when you work in the police department as a social.
But they're not the police, though.
Now, listen.
Sure.
You can be a social worker at the school. You could be a social worker at different places. But when you know you come in to work for the department of the police department, you know it's a certain high level. They have to train them
So
to
it
be
comes
able
back
to.
to training.
Yes, but we need them out there.
Social workers.
Yeah, we don't need them to go in first. Hey, yeah, no, but we need them out there.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mr. Grant, you good? What's going on?
And you think this will help situations more than harm the situations?
If you're a person who deals with people on a daily basis, you know how to correct that situation a little.
Right. So we got a little bit more time left, and I wanted to ask you about the presidential election that's coming up.
Okay.
Okay. So we got Trump and Biden.
Correct.
Okay. So there's Gayle King and Charles Barkley.
Trump says his mugshot
created a lot of buzz over the last few days. A conversation about Donald Trump, who
Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I heard about this.
Okay.
said his criminal indictments and mugshot have endeared him to black voters. It's been everywhere, even creating topics for some of our fellow news networks. So we talked about President Biden's enthusiasm problem among black Americans. But the flip side of that coin is this.
Well, I love this, right? Okay. You got on CNN, you have Gayle King, who's Oprah's friend, and Charles Barkley, who's a retired NBA Hall of Fame player, on the news now.
I know. It's amazing. I love it.
You like this?
I just think that we can never get to a point where we put people in a box.
Sure.
You know, people try to put me in a box. I won't allow it.
That's different, I think.
No, it's not.
I think with reporting.
No, it's not. It's not.
So I was a
Shannon Sharp.
journalist.
Shannon Sharp is one of the best reporters ever. He never went to journalist school. He never was a journalist, but he can ask the question. I went to school for journalism. I went to school for mass communication.
Okay.
You know, I didn't think I was going to be using it in a mass way, but Gail is, you know, she's Oprah's friend. I mean, she's going to get put on, you know.
Here's why I have a problem with it. There's a difference between this is my wheelhouse, right? I was a journalist broadcast journalist, different than print journalism.
Right.
Okay. So I was not in print.
Right.
I was in broadcast journalism.
You was with that TV right in front of you, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went to school for it, and there's an ethics book, right? Do you think people are you think Gayle King's carrying around in a journalism ethics book? You think Charles Barkley is? So there's a difference between journalism and reporting, okay, versus an editorial or an opinion piece. Now,
so what
I have no problem.
What are they?
There are definitely opinion editorials,
okay,
right? But it has the label of CNN on it, so that I'm
gonna listen. I'm gonna take you as a professional.
With that comes CNN's journalistic integrity. Over time, to me, when I see this, I am going to be very apprehensive about what you're saying. Because you're not reporting, you're giving an opinion. And you're right, you can give an opinion, no problem. I have no problem with that. But don't pose or put it up there as if you are a real journalist.
I agree.
Right?
I mean, I can see that.
Like George Stephanopoulos he does interviews all the time.
Yeah.
He asks questions. I would love to ask George Stephanopoulos, do you think you're a real journalist? And if he said yes, I would have to take like extreme issue with that.
They probably don't think they're real journalists.
Oh no, I think Gail I very much think she's a real
she has her paper in her hand.
It must be.
She got her paper in her hand and she got her pen right between her thumb.
Chuck doesn't.
Chuck don't care. Chuck's an editorial.
Okay,
the
here we
appeal
go.
of Donald Trump to certain black voters. So let's talk about that
Oh
with
my
Coleman
gosh.
Hughes. He's
There you
joined
go,
us
Coleman
on stage.
again.
He's a podcast host and CNN political analyst whose new book, The End of Race Politics, Arguments for
You need to read this.
Okay.
This book is fantastic.
Okay.
Get the audio version and
Colorblind
the
America
regular
is
one.
available now. I'm always fascinated by the term colorblind. I always wonder, Coleman, is that possible? Also joining us is CNN senior political commentator Van Jones is here. Great to have you guys here.
Awesome.
Coleman, let's start with you. What do you make of the president's comments? I hear you see things a little differently.
Well, yeah, you know, I don't think they're offensive. I'm not going to punch anyone in the face, but that doesn't mean they're.
So you get what Trump said, right? Do you understand what they're talking about?
Yeah, they talking about his mug shot.
And is making black voters sort of gravitate towards him, which I think is a ridiculous thing to say. But
It's not ridiculous, though.
tell me why.
Because sometimes people just don't know.
Okay.
And sometimes people are fooled easy.
So you're talking about black voters?
I'm talking about people.
People in general.
Yeah.
Just voters in general.
Right. So and when you talk about black voters who have been disturbed by Republican Party, Democratic Party, Independent Party, State Party, Green Party, whatever other party,
right?
That you can they have never really gave African Americans their true worth.
Helping
worth.
them. Worth.
They haven't given them their true worth.
Okay.
In America.
Okay.
So now we're already dealing with a situation. So yeah, we understand he had a mugshot. But that's not going to make black people vote for you.
Well, listen to here Coleman goes on some data points because here
That doesn't mean they're right either. So if you look at it, Donald Trump's been gaining steam amongst black voters since prior to 2020. The polls from 2022 before the first indictment actually showed him picking up a lot of steam too. Mm-hmm. So whatever the trend is, it's probably not the indictments. It's probably a dissatisfaction with Democrats in general.
You also look at him
agree.
polling against other Republicans.
But he
and
named
he's
the
also
indictment
polling well with black.
specifically, though.
Right. So
He named the
he
indictment.
named them. That's
Yeah.
so I don't think he's right about that, right? I don't think the indictment is what is drawing black voters towards him.
What do you
It's
think
clearly
it
something
is?
else.
What do you think it is?
Well, I think frankly, it could just be that, first of all, this trend is a lot of younger black voters.
Yeah.
Basically, it's black men under 30 that are moving towards the Republican Party, black men basically my age. And it could just be a general dissatisfaction with the message that the Democratic Party is telling black people. They're telling black people essentially, nothing is your fault. It's all systemic racism. And that's actually not appealing to a lot of younger men. Younger men prefer to be told your life is in your own control and you can make your own destiny.
Why don't you think it's offensive? I think that's interesting. You said,
Well,
Thoughts on that? Or do you want to finish it?
no, I don't need to listen to him anymore. I just feel like he has his opinion on how he sees black people, and some people are going to vote for Donald Trump, and some people are going to vote for Biden, and we are disappointed with the system to the point where a lot of people are not going to vote at all, and that's probably worse than voting for somebody. And I think this whole process is to discourage blacks from voting. In Washington, D.C., in Ward 7 and 8, the voting was around 22% of people.
Talking about presidential election or?
I'm talking about the last election, presidential election, in Ward 7 and 8.
Okay. Only 20% of the voting population?
23%.
23% of the voting population actually voted.
Correct.
In the last presidential election.
Correct.
Okay.
Because they voted for, local elections also.
Okay.
So
Is it the same for local elections? Is it about the same?
It's the same.
It's the same across the board.
Across the board. Right. In that certain area. What is going to motivate them to vote? You think Donald Trump putting a shoe up going to motivate them? You think Donald Trump having a mugshot is going to motivate them? Nah. People helping the situation is going to motivate them. Having belief in someone, hope again, is going to change that situation. And I hope to be that hope for people. Hope people can lean on that. Because if we start leaning on each other, we're gonna be a better community. Period. Just like every other community. Trust, lean, and respect.
Yeah, DC is it's one of those weird jurisdictions that you get we're local, right? We're local, and then you get we're on the national stage when it comes time for a presidential election like this. Do you want to listen to what Van Jones says?
Is he saying something smart?
I'll let you be the judge of that.
Let's do it.
that I don't think it's offensive.
He said it was wrong. So
I think it's incorrect. I don't.
He didn't say it was wrong.
But it doesn't offend me as an idea.
Yeah.
The idea in theory that people would rally behind Trump because he's being unfairly persecuted, and that resonates with black people's feeling of being unfairly persecuted. That's not offensive to me in theory. I just don't think it's the actual reason why people are going towards him. It has nothing to do with that.
They just dissatisfied.
I was offended. I appreciate your point. I was offended.
I was offended too.
But maybe it's a generational thing. I agree with what you're saying, that he does kind of have this kind of outlaw image that's going on now, and that might be somewhat appealing. But I think in his mind, he associates black people with criminality. So I think in his mind, what he did with the Central Park Five and that sort of stuff. So to me, it was a tell. Just the same way that he said the new Republican contender for one of the governorships is Dr. King times 10. This guy's not a civil rights guy at all, but he's black. And so you can see in his mind, crime, Dr. King, black. Yeah. So I was offended by that. But I think you put your finger on something very important. I do think that Trump seems strong right now. You got people jumping on him, 957 lawsuits, all these felonies and stuff. If I had one felony, I'd be home crying.
Yeah.
This dude has
or you'd be in jail, Van.
Oh, true.
See, Gail saying that, or he'd be in jail. How does she doesn't know that? Why would she
She's
say
probably
something
right
like that?
though. She's probably right. If he had 900 and something indictments, Van probably would be in jail.
Well, he said if he had one felony indictment, he'd be crying at home right now.
Well,
she goes,
he's
no,
he's
you'd
a
be
little
in jail.
He's a little over dramatic, and she's a little bit,
It doesn't help the situation to say something like that, because
I just think the whole situation when it comes to how people try to say how Black people should be.
Okay, explain that.
Black people just want to be happy. All the things that people think that we want and need, sometimes we just want people to be respectful to us as people. It's generations outside of slavery, right? But they still got certain things in place, like we're still slaves.
Like what?
Well, like, let's say housing. Okay, let's talk about housing. Like, why do we pay so much money in certain communities? How did they raise when they start redlining and when they start doing all of that? This was deliberately done to Black people, right? To keep us down. When someone from another country comes, they can get loans immediately and build a future for their family. We can't even get a loan in our own country.
You're saying all Black people can't get loans?
I ain't saying all Black people.
But Black people in general.
I'd say they make it difficult, let me say that, for Black people to get loans. You got to have your credit right. You got to have your right money. You got to have somebody to do this. You got to have, the ratio of your income to net worth got to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that for apartment buildings too.
Mm-hmm. Credit checks.
Everything.
Yeah.
So
they check your income.
They check everything.
Right.
So what about if I have bad credit, but I got a great pay? I'm trying my hardest. I got a good job. I'm trying. Give me a chance to pay my rent. If I mess up, then deal with me.
Yeah. So does that go towards racism against towards Black people, or
I'm
is
just
it?
Saying, no, I'm just saying Black people in general. Like, I just feel like Donald Trump was at one time was a celebrity. He had the Apprentice.
It's same path.
And people.
He was a celebrity.
People loved him. They was like,
he didn't hold office, and then he got elected. Same with you never held office. You're a celebrity.
Yeah, but the difference between me and him, I don't support any nationalist party that hates another group of people. That's not my base.
Mm-hmm.
I don't promote hate and that type of
division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we both came from that world, but we're on a different mission, and I've heard, Rob speak and say, yeah, like Trump. And I'm like,
oh, he's called you like
no, he
Trump?
tried to do that. He tried to do it.
I didn't
No, he's tried
purposely try to do that.
Yeah, he's tried to do that.
I mean, there's similarities to the path and entertainment and never holding office, but there's huge distinctions as well.
I mean, he could have called me Bono.
Sonny Bono. Well, it's been done before, right? There are examples.
He could have called me.
Ronald Reagan did it. He was an actor. But
what about the comedian who's in Minnesota?
Oh, Al Franken.
He could have called me him.
Franken. It's been done before.
A lot.
It's rare, but it's not unprecidented. And yes, he could have called you other things. I mean, he did it purposely, right?
Right.
As strategy.
But it's a terrible strategy because most people in DC know that. Well, let me say this: Most people know comedians are some of the smartest people in America.
I think they're the smartest people in the room typically.
So
because they have to toe, it's a high wire act. They have to toe the line between being funny, truthful, but it could be offensive.
It could be.
Right?
So now you know, but deeper than that, just like for people who never have been in that world at all, to try to make an opinion on it is, you know, it's a little bit weird. That's why when I'm coming into the world, I can only talk about the things that I want to change about the world that I see. I can't come in and tell you that we don't need 13 council members. We only need 6. I can't come and change the system.
Right.
But I can come try to make the system better, be a part of that person to make the system better. And that's all I want to do. I'm going to continue to push that. I'm going to continue to preach that, you know?
So let's finish this one up. Chuck gets in here.
Let me get in jail, crying.
But that only seems to boost his popularity.
And I just do think that right now, people are hurting and uncertain. You go in the grocery store, you spend $300, and the food runs out by Wednesday. It doesn't feel good. Yeah. The world seems to be on fire. And then here's this guy who's just strong. Now, he's strong and wrong, but he does seem strong. And I think that does have some appeal. And I think that we got to deal with that. I also do think.
But he's also very fluid with the truth, and that doesn't seem to matter to people either.
You are a well-raised sister. She's fluid with the truth. She didn't say you're a damn liar.
But you know what I mean, and that doesn't bother you, Cole?
He don't smile a lot.
His lying definitely bothers me.
Who, Coleman?
Coleman, he don't smile a lot.
He's very serious, dude.
Yeah,
he goes on data points.
Yeah,
he
does.
looks up the polls and things like that. So
It's me. I didn't vote for him, and I wouldn't vote for him. But for a lot of voters, I agree, view him as strong. And there's actually been some polls of Republicans that like him. And a lot of them agree with all of the same criticisms that you just said. They know he's a liar, but they like that he's strong. And especially when you put him up against Joe Biden, who with each passing day just looks worse and worse and more feeble, having that next to a person that is relatively strong.
Because guys.
So.
Are you asking me about this presidential race?
Yes.
Okay.
Who do you think is going to win?
So that I don't know, but I can say that it's going to be super close.
You think so?
I think we view Donald Trump in a certain manner. We view Joe Biden in a certain manner. And, you know, I'm a Democrat. I'm riding with Biden. I got to ride with Biden, you know. But it is a lot of people going to vote for Trump too. But it was the same with it last time.
Yeah, we were talking about this before you got here. I think there's a certain amount of, I call it Trump derangement syndrome. And do I think he's very toxic to the country? Yeah, absolutely. But I think that sort of overreacting to him, if he becomes president again, I don't think it's not going to be good for anybody. And to act like was it bad? Yes. But was it so horrible where people are saying, oh, he's a dictator and is going to not relinquish power? I think that's a little bit of a stretch.
I worry about when people get the big head.
People meaning Trump?
Anybody. Any president.
Well, he had a big head before he got elected.
I'm just telling you, when it can't be controlled, that's what worries me. So, yeah, it's confidence, and we all have that. We need that. But when you start saying that you can tell judges to kiss your butt and they're not, these is like, our system is run a certain way. And no matter if you, I guess,
gotta play by the rules.
You still got to play by the rules.
Right.
And this show, you know, it's showing right now, like him being in court facing these situations. You know, most of us know that he gonna get a slap on the wrist.
Well, he's facing for the trial that he's getting put through right now with the I don't know what the exact charge was.
It's paying Shorty off to get.
Well, but there's a criminal charge for that.
It's called.
He was using campaign funds to.
Correct.
I think he misused campaign funds.
The misuse of campaign funds. You can't do that.
When you look at crimes like that, there are politicians that actually do it all the time. It's actually pretty common, and usually it's a misdemeanor or a fine. And when I haven't looked at the indictment sheet, so I don't know. I can't speak to the charge on it, but I think he's being charged with a felony, correct?
Yes.
And typically, that's not the case when it comes to these types of cases.
I believe that.
This is an exception to the general rule.
I mean, but you know, when you run for office, you put yourself in a certain position.
You put yourself out there and you publicize yourself. That's why you were running for mayor and then now this the DC Council at large. When you were at home chilling in California,
and I
think it's nuts.
I mean, you know, I could have. You
could have.
And not ran for city council at large.
You could have.
But I care.
That's the difference, I think. I think with Trump, it's more of an ego thing.
No, Trump wants to get back at that situation. He loves that power. He loves that energy and that fame, and you know, and whatever happens in our presidential election and in the general election, we as United States citizens need to know that we need each other.
I think that's the important point. No matter what happens.
No matter if you voted for Trump or you voted for Biden.
We're all citizens.
Can we go and have a beer together? Can we go have a drink together? Can we go eat some food together? Can our kids run in the backyard and play with one another?
No matter what the politics.
Yeah, are we a part of the problem or are we a part of the solution?
Exactly.
No matter who we vote for. And I say the same thing in this election that coming up with me. No matter who you vote for, no matter who you vote for, at the end of it, we still got to work together. We still got to come together, put our egos aside, and work.
All right, we're going to get you out of here on this. Because you're a stand-up comic, I thought that I don't know if you've seen this before, but it's you know who Shane Gillis is?
I do.
Okay. So I want to do that, and then just to end on some levity. And I want one good Shannon Sharp story.
Okay.
And get out of here on this. And then we got to tell everyone where to, the information on voting and where to donate to your charities and things like that. Okay. So this is Shane Gillis.
You're already laughing.
Has enough time passed that can we admit that Trump was funny? Can we finally admit that he was funny? Well, hold on. I don't like the tone of that. That's not what I'm going for here. Yeah. The great leader. No. He was funny. Now, whether or not that's a great quality, the commander-in-chief, that's definitely up for debate. But he was funny. I saw it. And I lived in New York, so the whole time he was in office, I would be like, something would happen. I'd show my friends. I'd be like, look at that. They'd be like, what? Right, it's funny. Like, there's nothing funny about Donald Trump. I don't know. During Hurricane Dorian, he was like, maybe we should nuke it. That was a real suggestion from the president.
That was.
The president said that. The president of the United States. He was like, hey, we got a big storm coming. You guys want me to blow it up? I was like, no, what the fuck are you talking? He's like, I don't know. I fuck around, dude. That's what I do.
He's good.
I don't know. Now that he's gone, I'll never watch a debate ever again. Can you imagine just a regular debate now? After we witnessed the GOAT.
Yeah, he was the GOAT.
Undefeated in debates.
No bull.
And he never said a fact.
He said nothing.
You know how impressive that is? He was funny and he argued like a fifth grader. He was unstoppable. people would try to hit him with statistics and facts. He would just go, wrong. Like, holy fuck, dude. How was no one prepared for this?
Right. Wrong.
Go back and watch those debates. You forget how good, how electric that shit was. Don't tell your friends in Austin. They'll be mad. Just get a six-pack, toss on a Trump highlight video on YouTube. It's a good night, dude. Why? I went back. I watched his first debate. That's like my favorite one. At the time, Trump was polling at like less than 1%. Like no one liked him. If you guys like him now, you didn't back then. And I know that because I watched my dad. My dad at the time, he would like, anytime Trump even came on TV, my dad would be like, get this fucking joker. Get him off the fucking screen. And then now my dad's like, fucking guys can't go to the Capitol? He's like, guys can't have fun anymore? He's like, and it was because of the debates. That's what did it, dude. That's how we got Trump, these debates. And the first one is the best one. So it's a Republican primary. Everyone's up on stage.
I went back and watched this.
It was fun. I got to go back.
You got to go back and watch it. Watch it. This is all true.
Still doing their political shit. So like the first couple guys that talk are like, I'm from Kentucky and I love education. And the crowd's like, nice. We didn't know what was coming. And then the next guy's like, I'm from Georgia and I love religion. And the crowd's like, pretty good. This is a good one. This is a heated debate. And then it finally got to Trump's turn to talk, and he was just like, Rand Paul is ugly? And the whole crowd was like, oh, we didn't know you could do that in this. You can just do that as your thing? And Rand Paul was like, all right, everybody, settle down. We're trying to have a debate here. And the whole crowd was like, shut the fuck up, Rand Paul. Ugly bitch.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And we just kept throwing dorks up on stage to make them debate Trump.
Man.
And it was not fair. It was mean for us to have done that to people. These guys were in politics their whole lives.
Yep.
And they just had to debate a fucking maniac up there who didn't give a fuck, dude. And I hate it was fun to cheer for him in the debates. It was fun to cheer for him in the debates. Because he was going up against guys that had been in politics for like 40 years.
You're
and then
right.
he showed up to the event like, oh, fuck it, what are we talking about? Like, it was like,
He didn't even have no
he
notes.
had no clue.
No clue.
Every week he had no fucking idea. There's one debate he's like in the middle of it going back and forth about the economy with Ted Cruz. They're literally talking about the economy, and in the middle of it he's just like, Ted's wife, ugly as a dog. Like, holy shit, dude. Ted was like, I'm from Texas. You don't talk about a man's family like that. You've got a dog wife, Ted. Everyone knows.
Everyone knows. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, God. That's funny.
You didn't see that?
No, that's
Oh,
good.
it's so great. This is what I thought was you were going to do and your debate with Robert.
Yeah, I mean, you know, most people think I'm gonna do stuff like that, but I actually have facts, and you know, I actually want to fix something, and I can say dumb stuff about Robert because it's so easy. But you know, I let him put himself in certain situations. I don't, you know, Trump was funny during those debates, and
Go back and watch it.
I mean, I did.
It's so
I've
great.
watched him, and I love him because he did start calling people any kind. Yeah.
There's no rules up there.
No, there was no rules.
And I think the debate, like there's like an antiquated method. They have like 7 people up there. Again, 30 seconds. Here you go. Answer the question.
Well, I would tell you in the next, what is it? The 16th. In the next about 19, 18 days, I wouldn't turn my eye off the at-large race.
Oh, I'll be watching.
Things will be happening, and we'll see where the bricks lay.
The rules of the game.
I don't know if it's rules to the game, though.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think so, because they've already broken them.
Yeah.
Against me.
Yeah.
You know, they've already snatched my Wikipedia down. Look at my Wikipedia.
They've edited it.
You can't even find me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Go look at Rodney Grant. Go look up Rodney Red Grant.
Okay.
you'll find a white guy from India.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, they've already started doing different things so people won't be able to know who Rodney Red Grant is.
Well, hopefully we'll get this out. We're gonna send you a copy of this once.
Oh, you're gonna get it out, and people are gonna love it. And anybody who can do an interview with law books around, cool with me.
You're welcome back anytime. But before you go, I want a good Shannon Sharpe story.
Good Shannon Sharpe story. I got a lot of them.
We'll pick your best one.
Well, some of them I might gonna tell on his show when I go on his show, but Shannon Sharpe is the hardest working athlete I've ever been around in life. Shannon Sharpe can run for hours and hours and hours fast. Shannon Sharpe is he's an Adonis when it comes to athleticism. And it wasn't fair for him to be at Savannah State University, but it was, and we loved it because we won games. But he was already a Hall of Famer there. So, it's really not the stories about Shannon are hilarious because he has a super personality. He's always been like that. But I think I can tell one. I was performing at Savannah State University. We used to do talent shows, me and this guy named Bernard Mack. And I think Sharpe has talked about this. Bernard, rest his soul. But Bernard was the person, it's crazy because his name Bernard Mack, and now we know Bernie Mac, but Bernard Mack was the funny guy in our dormitory. And I used to do this character called Reverend Feelgood. And I'll get on stage and I'll be talking, and Shannon and them was my security. So they'd be one, they walk me in, we all walk in together, we all party together, then they place me on stage. And it just, those moments like that, I remember with Sharpe, and, his ability to fit in anywhere is something I respect about him. Oh, Shannon Sharpe, my man. And I saw him for the first time in a long time the other day with Cat Williams in Los Angeles, and it made me really, really happy.
Good. And you're going on this show soon, so we'll get to see you again.
Yep.
So, Red, thanks for coming on the Politics Pagoda. Where can people find your stuff?
You can go to GrantAtLarge.com and follow the movement. You can go to redgrant.com, follow the movement. And I tell people, just go on, I'm a Instagram, I'm a social media head.
Instagram?
Yeah, Red Grant
X.
on Instagram, Rodney Red Grant on Twitter. And people can get in contact with me. I'm like one of the easiest people to get in contact with. And I think that's a quality that most of us need to have again, being able to be reachable, accessible, and engaging. So that's what I want to bring to Washington, D.C. politics. And hopefully people will see it. And on June 4th, they will vote the right way.
Before that, too, May
26th, early voting. You can, the polls, really, if you got your envelope right now, you can go drop it off in the mailboxes. There's a lot of mailboxes around the city, not regular mailboxes. Put them in the voting boxes there out front of different places. And you can Google where the boxes are at dcboe.com. And you know exactly where you can go and vote early. You can know where you're going to go and vote on June 4th. So then they make the process easy. You can always find out if your status is there, and make sure you're involved with the process.
Sounds good. Red Grant.
Thank
Rodney
you.
Red Grant. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you. Great interview too.
Thank you.
My man.